actual control, the LOC, in the Himalayas, and it can lead to disengagement and resolution of tension that began with skirmishes in May 2020, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said today in a press conference. The breakthrough has come significantly ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia to attend the Brics summit tomorrow. It is understood that the agreement pertains to patrolling in Depsang and Demchok areas. Here's exactly what the Foreign Secretary said at a press conference, and let me quote him. These talks have resulted in an agreement on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the Indian-China border areas, leading to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had risen in these areas in 2020, unquote. Sometimes later, at an event put together by NDTV, the Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar came out and confirmed that the agreement had been reached. Listen in.
We reached an agreement on patrolling, and with that, the disengagement, we have gone back to where the situation was in 2020, and we can say with that the disengagement process with China, you can say, has been completed.
And China has been locked in a standoff along the LAC with India, as you know, viewers. The Pangong Lake, let's have a look at the map. The Pangong Lake, the north bank of the lake, is divided into 8 fingers, with India claiming its territory up to finger 8 and China claiming its territory up to finger 4. Galwan River Basin, the Chinese built a compacted road up to the middle of the valley and built small posts in the river valley. Daulat Beg Oldi, again another contested area. The Chinese encroached into the DBA sector, which is on the Indian side. The DBO airstrip is accessible by the Darbuk Shiok DBO road. The Gogra post, the Chinese built military built up near the Gogra post. Demchok region, the Chinese were active in the region and moved heavy equipment there. The Kurang Valley, also known as Hot Springs, Depsang Bulge area, Gurung Hill, Rekinla, all of these places, viewers, have seen a standoff. The last few years have seen Prime Minister Modi being able to drive home the diplomatic advantage in quite a few challenging circumstances. Let me run you through a couple of them. Delhi has been able to, for example, play Washington onside and continue trade with Russia despite US-driven sanction regime post the Ukraine war. India has been able to continue its support for Israel without undermining ties with several West Asian nations. India has been able to ink a long, elusive and historic border land agreement with Bangladesh in 2015. India under Modi has launched strikes across the LOC not once but twice to punish backpacked Islamist terror. In 2018, India granted strategic trade authorization Tier 1 status, enabling the country to access a broad spectrum of military and dual-use technologies without the need for licenses. There have been certainly other areas where Modi diplomacy has actually yielded results. So let's open this up and let's understand what has actually transpired. Is this as big a success as it is being made out to be? Are we also now back at that place before that unfortunate incident in Galwan? Let's ask those questions. I have with me Ajay Shukla. He's a defense expert. Mr. Shukla, how do you read what has transpired? Is this a breakthrough?
Rahul, thanks for having me on the show. If there had been some proof from the Chinese side that such an agreement has been reached and it exists, I would say this has been a genuine breakthrough. But the striking thing about what is happening today is that you have the Indian Foreign Minister announcing an agreement and not a word about the agreement from the Chinese side, neither the Ministry of National Defense nor their foreign ministry. Given that India has always tried to overplay its own role and sort of downplay the role of China, this rings a bell. It sets off the alarm bells. Normally, when you have an agreement between two countries, you either have a joint statement or you have a jointly released statement from both the capitals at the same time. This time you have only a statement from India and nothing at all from China. So I'm waiting to see what China has to say.
Okay. RP Singh.
Well, we should wait for the few more days. I'm hopeful during the Brics, the things will happen, and the things will be out in open in Kazan, and in the meeting there things will be more open, and it's probably being held just because of the bilateral meeting which has to happen there, and more of what has happened has to happen now. Probably something more need to be announced, and that's the reason it's being withheld.
No, but the government has come out. The EAM himself has come out and said there's been a breakthrough. We have gone back to the 2020 status, pre-Galwan, that is. That's a very significant development because patrolling will be allowed to some of those points which were not accessible to us.
Yes, obviously, the patrolling will be allowed, and then probably in today's world of technology, it can all be seen now after probably a few days when finally the patrolling starts happen, and then it can be seen. And also the way the patrolling is happening in Pangong and other areas in Galwan and other areas, that can also be seen now. It's nothing which is hidden now under the scanner of the satellite imageries. So it's a matter of time that probably Chinese will announce it at their own time. But the Indian government, my friend is saying that probably Indian government has lied on this. This is wrong. The Indian government has said what has transpired between India and China.
No, so the insinuation, Colonel, is that the Indian government has misled the country. Is that what you're saying, Colonel Shukra?
Yeah, exactly in the same manner as the Prime Minister misled the country when he held an all-party meeting in the wake of the intrusions and said, "Na koi ghusa hai, na koi ghusne denge, koi Bharat ka post unke haath mein nahi hai." That was patently false and untrue. And it gives cause for sort of a certain degree of skepticism when the same government, and only at a one rung lower down than the Prime Minister, says that there's been an agreement with China, but China is not corroborating this in any way.
Okay. Dr. Ranganathan.
Rahul, I speak as a layman because you have a couple of experts on the panel. But to me, I think it's not about whether the agreement has happened or not. It's great if it's happened. The Colonel says we have to look for or find out what the Chinese view is. Fair enough. That's absolutely right. But the fact of the matter is, as a layman, it is at long last about the hypocrisy of the opposition. And not just any opposition. The opposition being Rahul Gandhi and the Congress. I wonder what their view is now. The same Rahul thought nothing of Chinese transgressions before 2014 during the UPA rule. Let me remind everyone what his advisor said, and I quote, "The India-China border is not yet defined. And so when the Chinese make incursions, it only means that they haven't entered our territory," unquote. The same Rahul was tight-lipped when China occupied 640 square kilometers of eastern Ladakh during the UPA, a fact reiterated by UPA's own Foreign Secretary, Mr. Sharan. Who knows? Perhaps calling for the breakup of Ladakh was an obligation on part of the Congress in that MOU that is signed, that has still not been made public, with the Communist Party of China back in 2008. The same Rahul was tight-lipped when China managed to make 600 incursions in the Indian side between 2010 and 2013, including in 2013, when the Chinese entered 28 kilometers deep into our territory at Dapsang, including on June 17, 2013, when the Chinese transgressed deep into Chumar, an incursion that the UPA did not disclose, Rahul, for 3 weeks for fear of public anger, forcing cancellation of a government functionary's visit to China. The same Rahul remained silent even as our trade deficit with China, that was $1.5 billion in 2004, climbed to $37 billion by 2014. The same Rahul was tight-lipped saying, in fact, his advisor was saying that Galwan, the very same Galwan that Modi was being accused of losing to China, that same Galwan was under Chinese occupation before 2014 as, quote, "Since the 1962 war, China has extended its control over the entire Galwan River," unquote. So let's not go about what the statement has been. I do agree. But let's also cheer a little for something has come to its final conclusion.
Okay, let me bring in Maruf Raza also. Maruf Raza, how do you see this? The EAM has come out and said we've had a significant breakthrough. We are back at 2020. So how do you assess this? You need to speak up. I think you might be on mute. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead. Okay, we can't hear you. Something is wrong with your line. Maruf Raza, I think you've got yourself on mute, please. Unmute yourself. Thank you. Okay. Colonel Shukla, you want to respond to what Dr. Ranganathan had said?
Yeah, I think that there is a sort of an all-round deficiency in the way that our strategic community and our political leaders approach this whole dispute with China. I think there's sort of the kind of belief that as long as we can accuse the other side of something, and that something is usually inadequacy in dealing with China, as long as we can accuse the other side, we're in the game. It's all okay. I think that we really need to grow up as a country. We really need to start treating these completely unacceptable ways.
But Colonel Shukla, I mean, look, I'm not trying to in any way cheerlead for anybody, but I'm finding this rather bizarre. Why would the Indian government stake its credibility and come out and say this, something that can be very easily refuted?
I'll answer that very sort of simply and succinctly.
Yeah.
Why did the Indian government stake its reputation on the Prime Minister after an all-party meeting where he briefed the members of the opposition on what had happened? He came out and said, this is practically at the same time as that awful Galwan.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, answer it after he finishes.
He's repeating it again and again. He's repeating again and again and then putting a false statement. Fact is, even that time, Colonel Shukla, not an inch of land was under occupation. It was a buffer area.
It was an inch of land which
Colonel Shukla, please, sir.
Okay, let's not speak on each other. Yes, finish your point, RPC.
No, I was talking when you interrupted.
Yeah, Colonel, finish your point, please. What is the point? RPC, you can respond. Yeah.
The point I'm making is that both sides have been guilty of lies at the worst and economies with the truth at the best. And that is, at least for me, as somebody who's an observer in these high grand games, this is completely unacceptable, and neither the Congress.
Okay, is it lies as Colonel Shukla seems to be suggesting, or are we just being extremely cynical because something is given that was unexpected and the ecosystem is in shock? I don't see the Congress getting really very uptight about anything. They haven't even responded except for one tweet from Jairam Ramesh, if I'm not mistaken, and he's on his own tangent. So RP Singh, would you like to respond, please?
Well, I will go by what then General said on a TV channel, probably yours, if I rightly remember. He said on CNN that yes, not an inch of land is under occupation of China, which was in occupation of India. Well, there are buffer zones, there are grey areas. I mean, obviously, both of us reach out to those areas. We go and capture those areas, and they also capture our areas. But that's point aside. But not on the points where we were there earlier. And then how can I disbelieve a general of the country?
You know, the same people who you're saying have come out saying not an inch of land has been under Chinese occupation. These are the same people who 2 days later get up and announce an agreement. That is, this particular agreement that we're talking about, which has been announced by the foreign minister, is the same foreign minister who said there is no intrusion, there is no ingress by the Chinese.
I think he's talking about, no, hang on.
What are
there
you
is no
having
ingress.
visions
I'm sorry, I think we're misrepresenting what the foreign minister said. Let me just put this out. And he said, I can confirm that FS has said, we reached an agreement on patrolling. And with that disengagement, he's talking about disengagement and patrolling.
Why has
we have gone.
China
Well, let me finish, sir. Let me finish. We have. No, hang on. Just a minute, please. I can't answer for China. I don't know why China. Maybe they fear loss of face. Maybe their big boss Xi Jinping has been brought to this concession because of certain compulsions that he doesn't admit to. China, of course, we should not even consider as an upfront country, viewers, given that it is completely outside of international law. It breaches pretty much every convention on earth. So I'm not even going, even if the Chinese came out and said that, yes, the whole place has been evacuated by us, I still won't believe them. There'll have to be some verification. So bless the Chinese, let them do what they want to. But viewers, I just want to tell you, the EM came out and said, I can confirm what FS has said, reached an agreement on patrolling, and with that disengagement, we have gone back to where the situation was in 2020. Now viewers, why would he be making this statement today? 2020 was 4 years ago. He could have made this in 2020, 3 months after Galwan, in the winter. He could have made it in 2021. In the winter, he could have made it in 2021 in May. At that time, we had the second wave of COVID. No one would even had the guts to go and check it. Viewers, suddenly he wakes up in 2024 and he makes this claim. So I find it a bit irreconcilable, these sort of doubters. I'm not, if the case is based on what the Chinese are saying, Colonel, then it's a flimsy one. Sorry.
I know the case is not based on what the Chinese are saying. The case is based on what the Indian side is saying and what in an international agreement is always corroborated by the other side. Okay. Otherwise, you don't take the view of just one.
Well, viewers, remember very, very clearly, maybe that agreement, as RP Singh has said, will be signed, the I's will be dotted and the T's will be crossed in 24 hours. We can wait 24, 36, whatever. For 2 days, the Prime Minister is going to be. Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in. And yes, RP Singh, last word. Yes, 1 minute. Yeah.
No, I do agree with...
1 minute, Dr. Ranganathan, yes.
I do agree with the good Colonel that an agreement which is as clearly as important as this should have had the Chinese side come in. Maybe, as you rightly say, in 24 hours we did. But may I gently disagree, because the impression that has been given ever since 2014 was that these incursions are happening for the first time.
That's
so
right.
If you were to tell the truth that they have always been happening, and the party that's accusing BJP that these are happening for the first time were the ones under whose rule these were happening maximally, you know, exposing the hypocrisy, and that's important.
Okay.
These things are not happening for the first time.
Yes. RP Singh, 30 seconds. I need to close.
And no. And it was General Narwane. I was going through it. I was digging out on the Google. It was General Narwane who said on record. So do I believe General Narwane, or do I believe Colonel Shukla, who has reason known for...
Okay,
his,
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, viewers. Thank you very much for watching. We will have to wait, of course, for the next 48 hours. The EM himself has said that the details will be revealed sooner than later. Thank you very much for watching.